What up, my friends? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is one of my favorite videos to film because I just get to chat about books with all of you. And last month, I did not read as many books as I normally do, so I didn't have enough to chat about. And I was like, Kate, you want to babble, what are you going to do? And I thought, let me just do a roundup of all of my favorite fall reads. So grab yourself a drink. Mine is like kind of summer vibes, to be honest. I should have like thought that through, but you know, we're not coordinated over here. I got a little flamingo glass straw here, and then Daisy Duck. My husband makes the best lattes. I bought an espresso machine because I used to be the one that always made our coffee. Then when I bought the espresso machine, it's like fancy dancy. You know, it's like barista level. And he went on like a YouTube journey figuring out how to do it, and he's like the master at it. So now I am passenger princess when it comes to the coffee machine. No idea how to use it. I actually had to FaceTime him this morning. This is my afternoon coffee. I don't always do this, but it's happening. And I had to FaceTime him this morning to have him walk me through how to make the morning coffee because he had to go to work like super early. And yeah, I was like, wow, I'm so spoiled. But anyways, we are going to discuss my favorite fall reads. We're also going to talk about the books that I read in August, which was a pretty short list for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break them down by category. So we're going to talk vibes here today, okay? So if you're looking to like vibe out with specific things, I'm like a mood reader. Sometimes I want like a bone-chilling thriller. Sometimes I want like a cozy mystery. Sometimes I want like a whimsical situation. Sometimes I want like a bewitching situation. And I'm going to share all of them with you. But let's dive in. I want to start off the gate strong, and we're going to talk thrillers because let's be real, the Burr months are meant for some thriller action. Now, the first one, if you are an avid reader, I may be losing you with this one because it is a very hyped book. So you might hear me talk about it and you might be like, oh, she's one of those. I am normally not into overhyped things. I usually go in and am let down when books are overhyped. But in this case, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, probably butchered that, I think is worth the hype. This book had so many twists and turns. I'm usually really good at predicting the endings of books, or at least having some type of an inkling, and I had absolutely no idea with this one. This one basically follows a woman who has a picture-perfect life, and then all of a sudden one night she takes out her husband and then will not utter another word about it. And years later, there's a psychologist who is determined to get her to talk, and he takes us along on that journey. Like I said, this one just has lots of twists and turns, things that I completely did not expect. It's very creepy, very untrustworthy. The entire time there's this like background feeling that you're missing something, and I loved that in this. So one of the top thriller recommendations, I read this several years ago. I still remember how I felt reading it. So if it's lasted that long with the amount of thrillers I've read since reading that one, you know it's a good one. All right, the next one is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Here's my thing with Riley Sager. If you want like fall gothic-y type vibes, go read his entire catalog. However, my issue with Riley Sager books is normally that it always feels a little incomplete. There always seems to be some type of like plot twist that happens that just like fizzles out. And I don't know if he does it intentionally to kind of build up some form of a frustration, or it's like supposed to be a cliffhanger, supposed to like leave off for reader interpretation, or what the case is, but it bothers me. So all of the books that I've read of his in the past have always been like a 4-star for me. This one was borderline 5-star for me. It's very creepy, very gothic. It's set like in an isolated area. It's just perfect for fall reading. This one has like almost Lizzie Borden vibes to it. There's this caretaker who ends up having to go live with this woman who is famous because her entire family was murdered, and nobody really knows what happened. And they're on this like crazy estate. There's a bunch of plot twists. You just feel cold the entire time you're reading it. So this is a perfect fall thriller. Next up, I read earlier this year, What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. This one was so good. This one is actually, I think, like late summer headed into fall, so kind of perfect for September. And it involves 3 girls that you're constantly suspicious of, but you're also rooting for. So I really loved that dynamic because most of the time in thrillers, I tend to kind of be only suspicious of the character and I don't really like them very much. This one, I think the author does an amazing job at really balancing that out. And the entire thing just feels very like true crime, Law and Order, Criminal Minds type vibes, which is totally my vibe, especially this time of year. Next up, I'm going to not even attempt this name. It'll be up on the screen. But The Chestnut Man by Søren and then whatever that last name is, that is beautiful, and I would mess up. This book has stuck with me for years. It's so creepy. It's really like a gory horror style thriller, which is not normally my vibe, but it had almost like a true crime detective element to it that somehow balanced that out enough for me. If you happen to be into horror books, I think that you would really like this one. It almost has like Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes to it. It's set in Copenhagen, and it's just like creepy woods vibes type thing. I think that it is a great thriller for the autumn months, but I would read it with a light on because it definitely gave all the creeps. All right, this next one, First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. This one, I don't know that it really like falls in a specific season, okay? But I loved it so much that I'm just gonna sneak it in because this is my channel and I can do what I want. I absolutely loved this one. This book is kind of like juicy, gossipy style. There's this woman who's trying to fit into this very elegant man's life, and her past starts to threaten that image that she's presented to everybody that he knows and himself. And I just didn't see a lot of it coming. There was so many twists and turns that I didn't expect. The way that the author does it, it never feels too heavy, but it feels so engaging, and it's just one of the best thrillers I've read. So I could not post a video where I talk thrillers without talking about that one. Another thriller that I can absolutely not talk about in this video is called Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. And this one kind of bridges me over into more of like the cozy mystery element. This one isn't as much of a thriller as it is more suspense. There's a murder that happens, but this is like a podcast in book form. If you're an audiobook lover, I think this is probably a perfect audiobook. And this one really did a great job at balancing more like witty banter with the more heavy suspense elements. And so it kind of bridges somewhere in between a cozy mystery and a thriller book. And it's one of the best books that I've read. I have recommended it to dozens of people, and multiple people have reported back that they loved it as much as me. If you're looking for a sure thing, Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, an absolute recommend from me. Now, speaking of cozy mystery, I know that a lot of people love like the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I think is the book. I didn't like completely love that. It definitely gave Gilmore Girl vibes. You may want to look into it if you haven't read it. It's by Laurie Gilmore, I think is the name of the author. And it just wasn't like one of my favorites, but one of my favorite cozy mysteries that I talk about far too often, so I'll keep it brief, is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. I am obsessed with talking about this book. I am obsessed with the book itself. I just read the second one and absolutely loved it. This one is set in Chinatown, San Francisco. It's got a meddling auntie who has a murder happen in her tea shop. She doesn't trust in the police, so she steps in as an amateur sleuth to figure out what's going on. There's witty banter. She's like meddling in her son's life. She's meddling in other people's lives. She's cooking food. She's got a tea shop. It's a vibe, okay? So if you're looking for something more cozy, but you still want like suspense and something that keeps you engaged, that one is a 5-star for me. One of my favorite books, one of the ones that I'll recommend to almost anyone, because I don't think that there's anybody that could not benefit from Vera Wong. Now we're gonna kind of dive into more of like the fantasy books. I only have a few of these. The first one is something in between like fantasy and suspense, but it's also kind of whimsical. I think it's really great for this time of year, and that's Assistant to the Villain, and it's by Nicole Maehrer. I am probably butchering that last name as well. This one is really cute. This one is basically set up like there's this villain. He runs this whole like fantasy world situation. Basically, he's misunderstood. This woman ends up stumbling into his life, and he takes her on as an assistant, and she drives him absolutely crazy. There's a lot of witty banter that goes back and forth. There's some mysteries that are happening in the kingdom and all of this stuff. And she's starting to discover that he may not be the villain after all, but he's trying to uphold his reputation as villain, and he believes he's a villain. And there's just this whole great dynamic. I just absolutely loved it. It was very entertaining. Like, that's the number one word I would use for this book. And I think it's perfect for this time of year. And I think it's a great palate cleanser. So if you end up reading a heavier book and you're looking for something a little bit lighter, I think that one would be great. And if you're trying to like dip your toes into fantasy, there's a little bit of a fantasy magical element to it. So it kind of be a good intro bridge over to some more of the actual fantasy books. Speaking of that, this next one I read earlier this year and I am still thinking about it. It's called Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This one I think is perfect for the fall. It is a fantasy book. It's got like a magical element to it, maybe even could be considered sci-fi. There's so many layers to this book. There's even a historical piece where there's some timeline jumps, and it's like a dark academia vibe, which I think is perfect for the autumn season. I could not recommend this book more. There's so much going on in it, and there's pieces where like information is dumped to you, which usually drives me crazy, but somehow the author in this one, I just felt like this element of trust with her, that as she was dumping the information, I knew that I would catch up eventually. And sure enough, by the time you get to the end of the book, you're completely caught up. It does end on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it's not so much that it's really frustrating. This is another one of those ones where if you're trying to introduce yourself into fantasy, I think this one would be great because it felt realistic. It's set at a university. There's a lot of real life topics that are happening with this one, but it has those like magical back pieces. There's even like the King Arthur legend situation happening in the book. So it's just got a little bit for everyone. I feel like I feel like I'm making it sound so complicated, and like in some ways it was, but that's the beauty of this author's talent, because she takes all of those layers and somehow wraps it up in the most beautiful way. And I just was completely blown away by that book. So definitely recommend that one. It's actually, I think, a young adult fantasy, which was tremendous. So anyways, definitely recommend that one. The next one, there was no way I was going to discuss fantasy, you guys, and not talk about this book. And it's another completely overhyped book, and it's Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. If it's been on your radar and you're sitting here thinking, should I do it? Your girl Kate thinks you should do it. I've never been into fantasy books. I tried A Court of Thorn and Roses because everybody said it was the vibe. I don't think it's the vibe. I'm gonna be real with you guys. If you like Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, those type of vibes, those super engaging, action-packed type situations, Fourth Wing is for you. I also love that in the first book, it's not an overload of information. I didn't feel like I needed to print out maps and like character trees and all of this stuff. Very action-packed, relatively easy to follow. The second and third book in the series get way more involved, but I feel like you're so warmed up from the first one, you're really pretty comfortable with the characters, that when you go into those, it's not as overwhelming. So there's not as much like world building in the first one. So if you're a true fantasy reader, I could see you not liking it because you probably are accustomed to the excessive world building, and that's what you love about fantasy, and I love that for you. But for me, that overwhelms me and scares me away. So I love that Fourth Wing is a little bit more on the simple side, but still has that action to keep it engaged. It's just a total win. I will say that I am a romance reader. I read romance books that have spicy scenes and no spicy scenes. I feel like the spicy scenes in this take away from the story a little bit. I'm sorry. So if you're not into spicy scenes, this one might make you a little uncomfortable because there's plot kind of woven into the spicy scenes, so you can't really skim. You kind of have to pay attention. But when it comes to an excellent fantasy book, and because it's set at like a war college basically, I think it's perfect for a fall read because it kind of gives you that academia type situation. All right, now let's dive into more of like the whimsical reads, if you will. The first one I want to talk about is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This one is by Sangu Mandanna. Hopefully I said that correctly. It'll be on the screen so you can correct me if I'm wrong. This one just had such a warm and like, I don't know, like ethereal is the word that I want to use, vibe to it. It's a vibe heavy book. There were some pieces that felt a little incomplete to me, But overall, I just thought the story was just so beautiful. We're about to talk about another book called The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I'll dive into it. One of my favorite reads, and it gives those vibes plus like almost a Mary Poppins feel. So I don't know, I just absolutely adored it. I thought that it was an adorable read. It's another one of those, if you're looking for a palate cleanser between heavier reads, this is one that I would recommend picking up for that reason. All right, and then the next one, The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is one of my top 5 books that I've ever read. It is such a dynamic book. There's so much to the story. The characters are just flawless, in my opinion. If you like the Harry Potter, I think it's a Harry Potter spinoff. I keep saying it is, but then I question myself, but it's like the Fantastical Beasts or whatever that movie series was. It gives those type of vibes to it. And there are some very heavy, dark themes that really are like thought-provoking, but the author does such a wonderful job at making the characters deliver the information in a way that doesn't feel as heavy. And they also have a lot of comedic relief that comes in because a lot of the characters have quirky type personalities that you just cannot help but fall in love with. So overall, one of the top books that I'd recommend, but this time of year, it's like one that I want to read again and again. It's like a comfort read type vibe, and this time of year is when I want to read it. The next one is called The Wishing Game by Meg Shaffer. This one, when I walked away from it, I walked away feeling like I had just read a classic book that had been out for 150 years or something. It's one of those ones that just feels timeless, and it just had the most beautiful story, the most beautiful characters. It's got kind of like a Willy Wonka feel to it. It's perfect for this time of year because this one, they kind of have to head off to an estate, and there's kind of a competition that happens. There's a lot of like soul searching going on. It's got some heavier elements to it as well. It's definitely not like the lightest read there is, but the author delivers such a hopeful message. There was a lot of stuff that was going on that was really hard to work through, but the entire time you just felt like the character had this sense of joy and sense of hope and sense of perseverance to get through the things that she's gone through and to try and improve the lives of others. Just an absolute treasure of a book, one that I would definitely recommend picking up, and I think it's perfect this time of year. All right, now headed into some of the romance choices. This one is perfect for this time of year, and it's actually a series by Erin Sterling, and it starts off with The Kiss Curse, then you have The Ex-Hex, and then you have The Wedding Witch. I absolutely loved these books. The first two have small town vibes going on. It's like Hocus Pocus meets Gilmore Girls, and like, how could that go wrong? You know what I mean? There's witches, there's a small town, there's a mystery happening, there's like generational sabotage that's happened, and they're trying to get to the bottom of it. It's just an entire vibe. The entire series is amazing. I think my favorite of the 3 was actually the second book, but all 3 were incredibly strong, and the characters are just so awesome. So I would definitely recommend reading that entire series. All right, the next one was called The Modern Girl's Guide to Magic by Linsey Hall. This one is another small town vibe. I absolutely loved it. It's set like in a village, and there's this witch who doesn't trust herself, doesn't trust her magic, but her grandmother begs her to come home because there's a competition that could save the family. She needs to enter it. She ends up entering it with somebody that she's hated her entire life. There's a whole enemies to lovers type vibe happening. It's just really cute. It's not like the strongest book ever. I wouldn't say it's like a 5-star, but if you're looking for a witchy type romance that just is like feel good and has all of the fall vibes to it, I definitely recommend picking it up. All right, the next one, I still to this day cannot believe that I'm uttering the words and recommending this book, but it's Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I really enjoy Ali Hazelwood a lot. I love her STEM series books. I think a lot of people felt like her writing followed a specific formula and they didn't love that. So I'm guessing she decided to kind of throw it back in their face and go a completely different direction. And she wrote a book about vampires and werewolves. And that is not normally my vibe, but something about this book, I absolutely loved it. And I think that what I've narrowed it down to is that I really like mafia romances every once in a while. And this has very heavy mafia vibes. It's just that the family that's like mafia vibes is a werewolf and vampire network. So I don't know. It just has the things that you'd want especially in like October, headed towards Halloween, but it has that guilty pleasure mafia type vibe to it. And Ali Hazelwood, to me, I think is an incredibly talented writer. So the way she does the whole thing, I just really enjoyed it. And what I loved about it is the characters were like completely unlovable, but you love them anyway. And so I don't know what she did with this book. I just walked away completely perplexed, but I gave it a 5-star. I just really enjoyed it. There are steamy scenes in this one, so just a heads up there. But overall, I just thought it was a great one. All right, the next one is called A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon, and this one's by Sarah Howley. This book follows Marielle, who has basically been letting her family down because her magic is just not good enough, and she accidentally summons a demon who's trying to negotiate with her for her soul. And they kind of just like nag each other and are having to try and figure out how to get rid of one another. There's like, it's just a vibe. It's just an entire vibe. There's a lot of like bickering happening back and forth. There's a lot of self-discovery. Another one of those ones that I'd recommend as like a palate cleanser. Not too heavy, definitely entertaining. There are spicy scenes in that one, but overall I just thought it was really cute and a good romance to pick up this time of year. All right, now I want to discuss a couple of dark romances, and the first one is the Mind F series. I'm not going to say the word obviously, by St. Abbey. This one is a book of like, I want to say there's 5 books altogether, and they're only like 125 pages each, but you fly through them because you cannot put them down. They're so good. It's like Law and Order meets Criminal Minds. It's got true crime element to it. There's a romance happening in the background. You're rooting for people that you feel like you shouldn't be rooting for. It's just an entire vibe. So definitely recommend picking that one up. And then another one that I cannot not talk about is the Bryn Weaver series. I think it's called like Ruminous Love Trilogy or something. It starts off with Butcher and Blackbird, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talk about it. I actually didn't completely love Butcher and Blackbird because I had read the Mind F series. I couldn't help but compare it, and it just didn't stand up to it. However, the second and third one, they sure do. So if you read the first one and were like, this isn't for me, try the second and third, because my friends convinced me to do it, and I'm so glad they did because I ended up loving them. It's not super uncomfortable dark romance, but it definitely heads into that territory, and there's like a serial killer element happening to it. So overall, I think it's just like kind of an unhinged style book. So if that's the vibe you're looking for this fall, there you go. All right, now I'm going to discuss 4 regular romances, okay? These are just feel good, get them on your radar style books. First up, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. First of all, she just needs to be on your radar in general. She's one of my favorite writers. She does such a beautiful job at navigating very complicated situations and not making you feel too heavy when you're reading it. And she does a great job with the romance, where I feel like it's incredibly layered and incredibly honest, incredibly messy. And the characters always have things going on in the background that should feel heavy, but she takes you through it in such a beautiful way. Part of Your World is set in a small town, and I just think it's perfect for this time of year. Another one is Just Don't Fall by Emma St. Clair. I really enjoy reading her books because they're borderline Hallmark. So if you're like looking for one of those like lighter reads, you know, the ones that are like a little cheesy, not totally awkward, but they're definitely like toeing that line, that's the style book it is. This one's like a sports romance style. I think it's just perfect for the fall season. The next one is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. One of my favorite romances I've read. It's set in Alaska. There's a whole element of kind of like family drama happening. And there's like the situation navigating a pretty rocky relationship between a parent and a child. And there's like an enemies to lovers, misunderstanding type situation happening. But the Alaska vibes is the number one thing. I just felt like the writing was just impeccable, and I felt like I was in Alaska. So definitely recommend picking that one up. And then last but not least, one of my favorite series that I recommend to people is the Bromance Book Club series. If you're looking for a romantic comedy series to get into, that's feel good but has some depth to it, I would definitely recommend picking it up. Each of the books kind of have pretty, not heavy topics, but they're a little bit more than your typical romance. And I just loved the entire series. There's a group of guys that are trying to help each other through relationships, but in some situations it ends up kind of being the blind leading the blind. But the effort they put forth to try and figure out a way to be the best version of themselves was just really heartwarming. So I would definitely recommend that entire series. All right, you guys, we are wrapping it up here. I wanted to dive into kind of more of like the historical side because I personally love historical romances, but I will say that I have not read that many that are set in the fall. So if you have any historical romances that you love that are set in the fall, I'd love to hear about it. So the first historical romance is It Happened One Autumn by Lisa Kleypas. I discovered her last year and just absolutely went on a journey of reading every single book that she had. I don't know that I've gotten there because she's been around a long time, but this book was so good. It follows an American whose parents are trying to get established with English society, basically. So they are a very wealthy family, but they don't have a title. So they're trying to marry their daughters into society in England. And Lillian, who's the main character in this one, is unapologetically herself. And I just absolutely loved it because it kind of clashed with the timeline a little bit. She was fighting back at it. And I don't know, somehow the author just pulls it off in such a great way. And it's set in the fall. I just loved the whole like American having to navigate that whole society and all of the rules and try to have the manners that you're supposed to have, and definitely recommend that one. And then the other one is Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. This one is number 4 in the Bridgerton series, and I think it's pretty much my favorite one. It follows Penelope and Colin, and basically Penelope had been in love with Colin forever, but he never noticed her like that. He always kind of looked at her like a little sidekick or sister or something, but he ends up traveling and then coming home, and their relationship starts to shift a little bit. And I don't know, there was something about it that I just felt was so beautiful. So definitely recommend picking that one up if you're into historical romance. And then the last 2 books that I want to talk about are actually from the same author, and it's Sarah Penner. The first one is The Lost Apothecary. This one is such a good one for the fall. If you like historical books, this one dips into 2 timelines. So there's a present day, and then it also dips back into the late 1700s. And there's an apothecary who is determined to help women who have been betrayed by men because of something that she went through personally. And then in the present day, the main character has also been betrayed by a man, and she sets out on a mission because she loves history so much. And she ends up finding a vial from that apothecary and starts to unravel all of the mysteries of the past. Absolutely phenomenal. And the apothecary vibes, I think, are just perfect for this time of year. Now, the other one is called The Amalfi Curse by Sarah Penner. Same situation. There's like a timeline jump, but this one is a little bit heavier on modern day. This one has more of like a national treasure meets The Little Mermaid meets like Pirates of the Caribbean. There is a mystery that's happening, I want to say in like the 1800s, and it involves kind of like witchcraft and things like that, like sea witches. So I think that this time of year, it's just perfect for spooky season. That wraps up all of the books that I want to recommend to you based on the vibes that you're looking for. I know that was a lot. Those will all be typed up in the description box for you, categorized and all of that good stuff. I would recommend any of these books. Hopefully you've read some of them so you can kind of eliminate. But if not, just pick any of them and I know that you'll be happy. Now I just need to tell you guys about the 3 books that I read in August. 3 books, you guys. I used to be reading like 30 books a month, but life has just been lifing lately. I also had dipped into a few nonfiction in the month of August. I haven't fully completed them, but we are going to be homeschooling our 3 toddlers. I have 3 toddlers. We're going to be homeschooling them, so I've started to do some like nonfiction reading to get myself prepared for that incredibly important role. So I didn't finish any of those books, but the books that I did read in August, the first one was Rules of a Ruse by Laura Beers. This was a historical holiday romance, and this one follows Alden, who is set to inherit a horse farm from his very quirky aunt, but her rule is that he needs to get married by a certain deadline, otherwise he's not getting his inheritance. So he heads off to the horse farm, and there's a woman there running it very successfully. She agrees to help him find a bride, but what he doesn't know is that she secretly wants to sabotage him because she knows that if he inherits the horse farm, he's going to sell it and she's not going to be able to work there anymore. This one I give a 4.25 out of 5 for stars, 0 out of 5 for spice. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I thought the characters were really great. I especially loved the background characters on this one. There's a lot of shenanigans going on. There's like a lot of really good witty banter. It's just one of those entertaining reads. And there's definitely some points that gets like a little repetitive, but overall I think that it's a total vibe, and I love picking up Christmas books even when it's not Christmas season. But as we're headed into the later part of the year, this might be one you'd want to pick up. All right, you guys, I'm about to make some people mad with this one. I finally read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Now, I will say I probably read it when I was like 12 or 13 because it was probably on one of those like summer reading lists that high school sends you home with, but I don't remember it if I did. I know that this is a cherished classic to many, and I'm happy for you if you're one of those people. If this is like your comfort read that you love so much, I'm happy for you. For me, I don't understand the hype. I feel like I've read other historical romances that just knock this one out. Edenbrooke by Julianne Donaldson is one that comes to mind, and anything by Jess Heileman blows this out of, I don't get it. I almost wonder if it's one of those things that like nostalgia comes in, like because you loved it so much many, many years ago, it's a treasured classic to you forever. I don't know. I just felt like the characters were insufferable. There were far too many of them. The romance always felt like they didn't want it to happen, and it just took away from the romance for me. I did end up giving it a 4-star out of 5, 0 out of 5 on Spice. I will say that the times when the romance is strong, it's very strong. You know, I felt like the eloquent way that the author writes the romance kind of dialogue was top tier. So maybe that's what people hold on to the most, but it was the in-between for me that I just couldn't do it. I felt also like I was in love with the father in this book, and he didn't get enough real estate, so I'm kind of salty about that. But overall, Pride and Prejudice, it's not going to be one of those ones that I reread. I know there's people that read that on repeat all the time. It's not going to be one for me. Okay, and then one of my friends on here, Bree, she had recommended the Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder series by Joanne Fluke. This one I want to say is on Hallmark. Like as a series. Can anybody confirm that? I gave this one a 4 out of 5 on Stars, 0 out of 5 on Spice. It's a cozy mystery. So this one follows Hannah, who's a bakery owner, who all of a sudden gets involved in a murder investigation because her delivery driver is found behind her business with her cookies all around him. And her brother-in-law is up for a promotion. He works for the police department, and she's determined to try and figure out what happened to help him out. This one is so cute, and what's really funny is I think it was released like a couple decades ago, okay? But it still felt super fresh and fun somehow. Like it had like a timeless element to it. There's definitely some very awkward dialogue moments that I think the story's probably just getting warmed up. Because this is the first in the series, I feel like maybe the author was just getting her footing with the characters, and that's where the awkwardness comes out. I definitely want to continue reading because it lives up to the cozy mystery vibes. This one, I feel like you can kind of really, you can marinate on it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can spend a few days with it, take a couple days off, come back to it. Easy to pop in and out of it. Easy to remember the characters. There's not too much going on. Just overall, I think it's really cute. So thank you, Bree, for the recommendation. Loved it. So that wraps up all of the books that I read in the month of August, as well as all the books that I'd recommend reading this fall season. If you guys have any recommendations for fall vibey books, I definitely need to do some reading in the month of September. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're walking away with at least one book recommendation. If this was your first time with me, thank you so much for clicking on that thumbnail and giving me a chance. On this channel, outside of my once a month book recommendation videos that I do, I also share a lot of grocery hauls as well as recipe inspiration. So if you need help with dinner ideas, lunch ideas, things like that, please feel free to check out the rest of my channel. And if you ended up enjoying the vibe while you're here, subscribing means the absolute world to me. I hope I delivered whatever you needed when you clicked on that thumbnail, and I hope you have a magical day. Bye.